All right, there's something really weird going on with 9/11 and oranges or orange juice. And I think the best place to start is this infamous Supertramp album cover for the album Breakfast in America, where the Twin Towers are intentionally placed on the U and the P in Super so that it looks like 9/11. You have the Twin Towers 9/11, and you're viewing it through a plane window. Planes 9/11. This actress is making a face giving you an indication of, hey, I know something about this. It's a very mischievous smile. And they have her holding up a glass of orange juice on the Twin Towers that is set to mimic the Statue of Liberty. Breakfast in America, orange juice, the Statue of Liberty, 9/11, the Twin Towers, and the plane. All of this is going to relate to Tron Ares. And so I'll get into that real quick now before going back to the beginning. If you remember from Tron Ares and the video I did on that, the whole movie is about the character Eve finding the permanence code, which will allow the digital creations to exist permanently in the quote-unquote real world that we exist in. And the first thing that they make using the permanence code is an orange tree. And obviously this relates to Eve symbolically taking a bite from the fruit in the garden that she isn't supposed to take a bite of, right? And they show her holding the orange that came from the digital world in this context. This is a scene that's very clearly telling you, yes, this is Eve. I mean, they named her Eve very clearly, so you get this. Taking a bite from the tree of knowledge, which digital knowledge is the internet in this context. And it's the permanence code. Subconsciously, this is all about our merger with digital technology. But they associate it with oranges, and it's all about trading places in this film. The digital world is coming into the quote-unquote real world, and actual real people are going into the digital world. There's a switch that takes place. The worlds flip. They trade places. And that ties into the video I did on Stranger Things, where those two worlds were trying to switch, trade places with each other. Well, some of you will know where I'm going with this already if you have seen the film Trading Places, which you can see here is featuring Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy in the context of the Twin Towers. It plays a central role in the film, and they even film the scenes on the trading floor at World Trade Center 4. But the most important point in this context of trading places is that it all surrounds an O.J. Futures situation. Trading Places famously depicted a plot to manipulate the frozen concentrated orange juice futures market by using insider information about a fake crop report where protagonists Valentine and Winthorpe short sell FCOJ futures at a high price, expecting them to crash after the real report reveals a good harvest, allowing them to buy back cheap and profit as the dukes who bought high go broke. So before 9/11, there's this Supertramp Breakfast in America album cover, remembering that this event took place during breakfast time in America. They put the orange juice right on the Twin Towers, and then another film released well before 9/11, Trading Places, surrounds the World Trade Center and O.J. Futures. And before going further here, I will summarize the general idea that I'm assuming you're familiar with. which is that this 9/11 ritual is all about opening the portal into a new dimension. You can view this however you want to. A Stargate, a quantum leap, the monolith screen that is at ground zero, quote unquote, is the space odyssey, right? 2001. Through this ritual, they are sending you, metaphorically as Bowman, through the portal into a new dimension where you become this star child within their system, within their structure. They mold you in this way. You go through an evolutionary leap. You are trading places from one world into the next. And that world is coming into our world at the same time. It's a merger. It's another fall in the language of the biblical story of Adam and Eve biting that fruit from the tree that they're not supposed to. And Donald Trump is the personification of that event. His two terms are those two planes flying into the two towers. As the personification of that event, he likewise is laced with all of this subconscious quantum leap propaganda. Operation Warp Speed, Project Stargate, Genesis, Donnie Darko, Back to the Future, all of these time travel stories. Which is referring to the time dilation that occurs as you merge with the digital technology. As your awareness and your energetic field merges with the Wi-Fi artificial field. As that merger is taking place, it's a quantum leap into a new dimension. But it's happening both ways, right? The digital world is coming into our reality, and we are likewise going into the digital world at the same time. It's trading places. And they have associated it with orange juice and oranges for whatever reason. I'll get into speculation about why, based on what they have put in other films, but I'm not inside their mind. I don't know why they do this stuff, okay? I'm just trying to look at it after the fact in hindsight and come up with something logical to explain it. But Donald Trump has all of these same themes, so of course, what is he known as? The Orange Man. I would speculate that the whole reason he does this fake tan is so that they could put the Orange Man stuff in the media about him and have this meme, Orange Man bad. The Orange Man. Do you see in the context that I have gone into here, as it relates to oranges, OJ, and 9/11, that Donald Trump being the Orange Man fits perfectly? As if they planned it in advance. So, trading places, OJ Futures, Tron Ares, Mars War, because it is kind of a war that's going on against us, biologically speaking, featuring the orange trees as the permanence code. If you get into what they say about this whole orange thing, it goes back to The Godfather, where orange is an intentional use of symbolism by filmmakers. There is a lot of speculation surrounding the potential symbolism of oranges in The Godfather. The primary interpretation being that whenever an orange is shown, there is impending doom on either the person handling the orange or an orange being shown in the scene. And then they go through all the examples of characters in The Godfather, all three parts, being surrounded by oranges before death scenes or some other tragedy unfolded. You can see a bunch of the examples that they went into there. Were the oranges intentionally added as some sort of symbolic representation of doom by filmmakers? If you look into it, they will say that in the first Godfather, it was not intentional. They just used the oranges to brighten scenes. It was some kind of a trick for the cameras. And then, when they noticed the quote-unquote coincidence that the oranges were surrounding doom and death, they intentionally put them into part 2 and 3 in that context. Given what I just went into about 9/11 and Trading Places, Supertramp, Breakfast in America, we can most likely assume that that's a backstory meant to explain it away as not intentional, because they love to appeal to coincidence in the context of movies. This is the whole idea of synchronicity being an alibi for the programmers along these lines. But that's the official story if you want to know what they said. The takeaway being that the oranges became associated with doom or death in film for this reason. Real quick, before going forward, there's a Tropicana orange juice ad that features the Twin Towers, and the end of it is pretty interesting, where they show the Twin Towers, it's pure and then they have a bunch of birds fly over the tower, giving you the illusion of planes subconsciously hitting the Twin Towers in the context of an orange juice ad. And then, speaking of Kubrick and 2001: A Space Odyssey, the Monolith Hotel at the event itself in New York City, well, what's the film that Stanley Kubrick made? A Clockwork Orange. And when you go to summaries about the plot, this one, for example, states, in Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, the orange symbolizes a human being, organic, being turned into a machine, clockwork, by the state's aversion therapy, losing free will for enforced goodness, with colors like orange often highlighting oppressive systems or contrasting with natural states, representing themes of choice, control, and human nature versus forced conformity. The title itself reflects author Anthony Burgess's concept of a person appearing natural but being mechanized internally, a core theme explored through Alex's journey. There it is, okay, right? Like A Clockwork Orange, as that relates to a human being becoming mechanized internally as they look natural outwardly. That's exactly what I was just describing with relationship to Tron Ares and Trading Places. The digital world coming into your world, coming into your reality as outwardly you still look normal. But internally, your energetic state and your being in general is being assimilated, merging with this Wi-Fi field and all of this larger technology. And that's happening in your mind also as you stare at the screen, right? There's so many stories out there about children and just people in general not being able to think the same way anymore after being exposed to some of this content, especially the short form algorithmic content that just trains your mind to operate in a different way. You're being changed internally while everything seems the same outwardly. A Clockwork Orange. And that relates both to the mechanized idea of a clock as well as the idea of orange being related to time dilating, and that's exactly what the 9/11 ritual is, and I think that's why they associated it with OJ, or orange. As it ties into all of this propaganda, remembering that as the story goes with the Godfather, it's a sign of impending doom. It's a death sign in these films. Somebody's about to die. Well, in the context of 9/11 and this larger Stargate ritual, it's a sign that you are about to die. It's impending doom for the collective human race. If you understand what they're showing you, okay? This orange theme in the context of 9/11 is a warning. Or consent, right? You're consenting to it because you see it and don't object. Silence is consent in the law. And then just another note as it relates to Kubrick, Breakfast in America, the actual song on that album is 2 minutes and 37 seconds long. 237, room 237. The more I get into this and think about it, I really think I was accurate in the video I did on Kubrick and how his films were a fuse designed to be lit as 9/11 approached, and then it exploded. And it was this timed psyop designed to affect people in hindsight. So they would go back and look at everything and be indoctrinated into this fake awakening, this false conspiracy movement that was planned in advance. And Kubrick is a central part of it. Let me put it to you like this. Vivian Kubrick, his daughter, has been on Alex Jones's show. Okay? I think if Stanley Kubrick were alive and the death wasn't all a part of the ritual here, assuming he is actually dead, of course, we'll never know that, he would have been on Alex Jones's show. He would have been the filmmaker conspiracy guy. But instead, they just turned him into that after the fact. And he's not around, and they just let the narrative run on its own, where they say, oh, he told the truth. He exposed it for everybody beforehand, and then that's why they killed him, allegedly, in this scenario. But when you look at stuff like this, it's like, oh, no, I don't think so. His films are so tightly woven into the 9/11 ritual, it surely was planned into it just like everything else, and Kubrick was in on it. Philip Petit, who is famously known for walking between the Twin Towers on a wire, said the following after he was arrested for doing this. When I see 3 oranges, I juggle. When I see 2 towers, I walk. Everyone should be aware about the connection between The Walk, Zemeckis, and Back to the Future, Petit and Marty McFly, and how that all ties together. And here you have Petit himself referencing oranges in the context of walking on a wire between the 2 towers. Which ties in the wire, the clock tower, a clockwork orange, and the 88 miles per hour, the DeLorean time travel. 9/11, that whole scene. The time travel is the time dilation, the shift in your perception, the shift in your dimension as you enter into the digital world. It's trading places. It's Tron Ares, as they show it to you in that film. And then, speaking of the Orange Man and the Golden Gate Bridge is painted in international orange. And that's what the Orange Man is. He's the New World Order, right? He's the controlled demolition of America so that something new is built in its place. It's international orange. The Golden Gate. And I just have a note here about the deer on the bridge. This just happened a week or so ago, where there was a deer that stopped traffic on the Golden Gate Bridge, which brings in Leave the World Behind as that relates to the controlled demolition of the USA and the Golden Gate in Jerusalem, as that relates to Donald Trump. Symbolically, that's what he's opening. This whole thing is about opening this Golden Gate. The Golden Gate Bridge's iconic color is international orange. And you can see how this color is very similar to the vest that Michael J. Fox wears as Marty McFly in Back to the Future, associating the idea of international orange with time travel and the Golden Gate, this portal that is opening as a part of this ritual. And Donald Trump, the Orange Man, is going to close the portal that they opened on 9/11 through whatever they attribute to him in the coming years. Who knows how that will all play out, but the loop will be closed through Donald Trump. Trading places, the worlds will fully merge through his actions. And that clearly ties into his association with AI and that whole narrative. As that relates to time travel, time dilation. A new perception of time in a different dimension. And what do people constantly keep saying? Time is speeding up. I can't keep pace with time anymore. It's happening right now. Oh, and then just relating to the deer thing on the Golden Gate Bridge, as that relates to Leave the World Behind, the controlled demolition, and that whole narrative, Steven Spielberg is releasing a new film titled Disclosure Day on June 12th, 2026. And based on the early scenes they have released, it's going to heavily feature deer. And we'll just have to see what they mean by all of that. But surely it relates to this whole thing that I'm going into here, as it always does. But it's interesting to me that it's going to be released on June 12th, because this will be right when the World Cup is starting in the US, and it'll be 2 days before Trump's 80th birthday. Oh, and speaking of Marty McFly, there's this really weird thing where Michael J. Fox drank orange juice repeatedly as his character on Family Ties. So once again, they've associated 9/11 with orange juice through Michael J. Fox playing Marty McFly and this other character, Alex P. Keaton, I think. And I have an image of that up here somewhere, if I can find it. Oh yeah, here it is. So you can see all these different examples of Michael J. Fox drinking orange juice on this show as he plays this character. And I put the J here in quotes because that's not his actual middle name. They added that as his screen name or whatever. And it's just interesting to me that it's Michael J., which makes you think of Michael Jordan, and then the association to Air Jordan, as that related to all this. I did videos on that last year. And then going back to Fight Club and how an intelligence asset associated with Mossad in Israel was the executive producer, and it's got all of this obvious 9/11 programming in it. There is a scene in Fight Club, and I'll just play it for you.
Did you know if you mix equal parts of gasoline and frozen orange juice concentrate, you can make napalm? No, I did not know that. Is that true? That's right. One can make all kinds of explosives using simple household items. Really?
There's this scene where they're on a plane together, Tyler Durden and this character that Edward Norton is playing. They're on a plane, and Tyler Durden makes reference to frozen orange juice concentrate, which is exactly what they were trading in Trading Places, set next to the World Trade Center. And he says you can turn it into napalm. You can turn it into an explosive in the context of a plane and the Twin Towers exploding on 9/11. And then I just have here listed a bunch of other films and television series where this orange or orange juice link is present. And the most obvious one is Children of Men, which is, of course, about the extinction of the human race. In Children of Men, oranges serve as a strong visual symbol of impending death, tragedy, or chaos, echoing a similar motif from the Godfather trilogy, appearing right before key violent or disastrous moments, like the ambush on the car and the fall of the refugee camp. This is the scene from the car. You can see she's peeling an orange, and they make a whole big deal about the orange here right before they get ambushed and characters die. And then this is the other scene they're talking about where they're eating an orange right before the refugee camp falls. These are just a couple scenes from The Godfather, going back to that film. Oranges on the ground falling before an assassination attempt. Al Pacino's character holding an orange before he dies, right? This is a random one that always comes up when you look into this from Breaking Bad, where a character falls and dies or paralyzes himself. I can't remember which one it is, but he falls head first and a bunch of oranges get knocked off the table. And it's this cube pattern on the floor, the honeycomb pattern. Bunch of little black cubes, which is kind of symbolic of the Borg from Star Trek, right? Symbolically, you are being assimilated, and it's the hive mind, like a beehive, controlled by the queen. This is from Lost, where John Locke's character has this orange in his mouth, and then he, or at least his character, is later turned into the entity that is trying to destroy the world. He's kind of a bad omen in that sense. This is an image from The Godfather where they show all of the oranges in the scenes throughout the film. You can pause that and take a look at it if you want to. And this is back to Fight Club, where Tyler Durden is wearing an orange jacket, sort of international orange, right? Looking like Marty McFly's vest and the actual color of the bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge. And he's wearing orange throughout the whole film, if you pay attention. He's always got something orange in his outfit. And he is kind of an omen of impending doom and death for the main character, which, in the context of the plot as they show it to us, they are splicing things into our mind subconsciously in the same way that Tyler Durden's character does it in the film. And that related to them showing us they were going to destroy those towers on 9/11. But more broadly, it's this hallucination, this new dimension that's coming into reality in your mind. And that's what this technology is. And it's changing you. It's driving you crazy, right? It's turning you into something else. And through that process, they show you his transformation. And ultimately, that's what's happening to us through exposure to this kind of thing. This is a similar theme from The Sopranos, where they attempt to assassinate Tony Soprano, and he's holding orange juice, and it gets shot right before they try to shoot him. This is from The Ninth Gate, where Johnny Depp's character is running away, going down the stairs in trouble, and a bag of oranges fall down the stairs after him. The Ninth Gate is one of the most ridiculous movies ever made. Of course, it was Polanski. But along the lines that I'm going into here, it's this transformation, this being turned into something else, not understanding what's happening to you as it happens. He's kind of just along for the ride. And then the last one I have up here is from American Beauty, where they have the bowl of oranges next to this picture of his family, and then at the end of the film, he's looking at that picture as he's shot. Again, associating the oranges with death and impending doom. So in that context, very interesting that the Golden Gate Bridge is international orange, and they put the orange juice as the torch on the Twin Towers on the cover of Breakfast in America. 9/11, impending doom, plain window. And then we just have to open our minds and understand that the ritual only began on 9/11, okay? It's this ever-present thing that's transpiring every day as we interact with this technology. And the Orange Man is leading us in that direction. They're doing it through his character. He's the moon child, right? He's eclipsing our minds temporarily. The coronavirus surrounded his presidency. We are locked down. And then after he passes, the moon moves out of the way, and there's this new sun from a different dimension that is lighting the world. And it's blue light in this case, right? The permanence code is an orange tree. The fruit is an orange. Eve picks an orange. Impending doom in terms of trading places. The Golden Gate. Silicon Valley right next to that bridge, right? Trading places. Business Insider, here's why Donald Trump's skin is so orange. Well, now we know why his skin is so orange, right? They give him this ridiculous fake tan that looks orange on purpose because it ties into all this. He's the Orange Man. He's the omen of impending doom for the United States of America and the world in general. You see? It's the controlled demolition. His two terms are those two planes flying into the two towers, as it relates to the United States of America and our minds. A clockwork orange. The orange symbolizes a human being, organic, being turned into a machine, clockwork, by the state's aversion therapy. There it is. A clockwork orange. Time dilation into a new dimension, where you perceive time differently. The extinction of the human race, children of men. And then the last thing I have up here is, of course, relating to O.J. Simpson, or quote-unquote the juice, O.J., right? So of course he would play a role in all of this, in hindsight. And the 1994 NBA Finals Game 5 was interrupted to show the white Bronco chase. And this game was played in New York, right? So you have O.J., the juice, coming onto the television screen of everyone in America watching the NBA Finals. A game that's being played in New York. So you have O.J. and New York being subconsciously linked. And it's a white Bronco that's being driven there, where, of course, the white horseman is the first horse in terms of the apocalypse, as they say, or tell that story. And the car was driven by Al Cowlings. And there's this weird thing in the English language where an uppercase I looks the same as a lowercase l. So Al here is essentially A-I. In other words, you have AI driving the white Bronco, the first horse of the apocalypse, and it's relating to OJ, the juice, and New York. Do you see what I am saying here? And it's interesting, too, because this was in 1994, and that was the last time that the U.S. hosted the World Cup, with the next one coming during the 250th anniversary of the country, as it relates to this whole ritual. Like, all of these things are planned in advance. I hope you can see that by now. But AI driving the Bronco, the white Bronco, the white horse, AI and the apocalypse. And that relates to the tree of knowledge, right? Taking that fruit, apocalypse, revealing information, technology. The permanence code, the trading places becomes permanent. The merging of the worlds, led by the orange man. Okay? Like, it's so obvious now. But the more important thing is the OJ in the context of 9/11 and the Twin Towers. Trading places, the orange juice futures. A clockwork orange, and the permanence code. Eve takes the fruit from the tree of knowledge, which is the digital tree, right? And it's an orange. Her name's Eve. Okay? Impending doom. Death. Trading places. Anyways, that's enough for this one. Talk to you later. Peace.